Welcome back to Speaking from Experience, episode number 4 here, and I am excited. I've got two great guests in studio with me here today recording. I have Jeff Toy and P-Rez, both from Roast War Championship, stand-up comedian. So, guys, man, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And I'm going to jump in right here with you guys before we even kind of start talking, but I've got to be honest. I know you both probably listened to my episode with Wrigler, and you two were two of my favorites that came out of Roast War Championship 4. And Jeff, I don't know if you heard, but I did have to say, my wife didn't get you, man. We argued all weekend about you because my wife said, you know, I just don't get it. I don't think he's that funny, man. I thought you were killer, man. I was the whole character with you with the 3x5 note cards and kind of stumbling over yourself, man. It killed for me. I thought it was hilarious. And then P-Rez, you are that guy. And I said with Wrigler, you're the guy in the neighborhood or in your school that you always think, all right, man, I'm going to hit him with this and it's going to kill him. And you just like brush it off your shoulder like nothing ever happened. You're like, oh yeah, well, and you kill back, man. Yeah. It was so, you know, shout out to both of you, man. I thought you both killed the other night.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I heard the episode. I enjoyed it and appreciated it. So that's cool.
Yeah, man, that's cool too because I lost my round. So that's cool that you like me, man.
I did, and like I said, the cool thing for me is, you know, and for those that haven't gone out to a Roast War Championship, get out because you get to see so many local comedians. And like I was saying, I've searched, you know, you guys' Instagram pages and looked at, you know, some of the videos you guys have out and things like that. And you get to learn more about, you know, local comedians. And I think so often people just think about comedy. They think about the big names. Man, you can go to local shows and get some great comedy every week.
Absolutely. You could absolutely do that. I didn't even know it was that prevalent, I guess. I've only been doing comedy for 5 months, so I didn't think that it was that prevalent in so many different cities. And I'm sure Indy isn't unique. There's plenty of cities that do the same thing, man, so you're absolutely right.
And I think it's pretty amazing. Both of you guys are under a year. So let's kind of jump in there where I know you're 5 months. Jeff, you told me before the show 7 to 8 months you've been doing this. Why? Why do you jump into comedy?
Well, man, I think it was something that was always in the back of my head as far as like trying out. And about like a year, almost 2 years ago, I tried it out just to step on stage, get a feel for it. And I probably just did it a handful of times, and I feel like I had like real no direction going on. So whenever a year passed, and I went back into it, and not really like, kind of developed more of like an idea of what I want to talk about on stage. I don't know, man. I think if pointing out some topics that are just like goofy in theory, just to have people go out and just have a good time. Is that about right?
Whatever you think's right, brother.
Right.
But no, that's perfect, man. So go ahead, P-Rez. I want to come back.
No, that's okay. So I've actually wanted to do it for a long time, like going back to high school. I want to act. When I was in high school, I did a few little local commercials, so I did a lot of that kind of thing. But stand-up comedy is one of the things I wanted to do, and honestly, I was just scared to. Just the fear of getting on stage and failing in front of people was my fear. So I just turned 40 in August. So around June, start saying to yourself, "What the hell are you waiting on?" Worst that could happen is you don't do it. You're not successful, but you got to get on stage and try it. And I enjoyed it, man. So here I am.
And and I think I'm one of those guys that I've acted a little bit before in some plays and things, and obviously do this. And as a high school principal, I'm pretty used to being up in front of people and those kind of things. And I've always said I want to try it. But it's terrifying in a whole different way. And I think part of it is when you talk to any successful comedian, they tell you right up front, you're going to be awful. You're going to fail and bomb. And when you hear that, it's kind of like, I'm not going to, you got to be ready to grind through it.
Yeah, I saw D.L. Hewley at Helium in May. And it was one of those tickets where you can meet him afterwards. So me and my buddies shook his hand, got a picture, and I was like, hey, you mind if I ask you a question? He's like, yeah, shoot. I said, have you ever bombed on stage? I don't know nothing about it. He's like, are you, what? Like, if you don't bomb, you're not trying. Are you kidding me? And I was like, really? I just didn't know it was that. I knew nothing about the profession, so I didn't know it was that common. And he was like, I never remember a good or a bad set. I just go to the next one.
Yeah,
So,
I think some of it, though, is like how do you, like, go into an open mic and I guess like bombing in front of a room that's potentially just all comedians is a different type of bombing if you were like on a showcase or like, like a guest spot or something at like a show, because what may not work at the open mic, you're just kind of getting out and repeating before like the show may kind of hit differently with an audience.
And that was something I asked Wrigler too, and I'll throw it to both of you guys as well. Is it more nerve-wracking to be in front of that room of comedians at an open mic, or is it more nerve-wracking when it's a paid audience or at least an audience that is not full of comedians?
For me personally, it's the people that aren't the comedians, because in the open mic, like you said, they get it. They know you're up there working on material, or it's harder, quote unquote, to make a comedian laugh. But when you're in front of the people who are there to laugh, it gets a little more nerve-wracking. It makes me a little more nervous because make me laugh, as opposed to the comedians. They're all there doing the same thing.
Well, I think it's like some of it is like outside like pressure. I would feel good about a show, leading up. I'm like, man, I'm just going to have fun. Audience members don't know if you're like new or if you're just, if you've been doing it forever. If you show like confidence or whatever, they'll just kind of go with it. But I have people like, they're like, oh man, are you nervous? Are you worried about this and this? I'm like, well, not until you like made a comment
now
about
I am.
it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now I am.
But, having this like pressure and then maybe going to a show and there's like really no crowd, it's like, man, I had all that build up throughout the whole day being worried, and now like 6 people show up. But it's like, if you're sitting in your head, like, even if you pause like during laugh parts and no one laughs, you're still practicing that timing and,
I think that's a great point too for young comedians starting out, is even that, pausing for that laugh, even if you don't get it right there, because again, as you work that timing, if you try to speed it up because you get nervous, you're never going to work that thing out to where it's right in the future.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, man.
I think also using your abilities. Like, I use a lot of facial expressions when I do my comedy, so I kind of use that to get my pause proper, and so timing is a big thing. Yeah, you're right.
And your body language, P-Rez, man, that's what I said. The arms crossed, kind of sitting back, like, and really both of your body languages, because Jeff, you look like and that's where I think I found you so funny with your body language. You look like a guy who walked in, had no clue what he was there for, that just ended up in the cage and was like, all right, I'm going to make fun of this guy. I loved it. And then P-Rez was like, just rock solid. You can't shake me. You can't, and shout out to Calvin, man. I love Calvin.
No, he had some good ones, but I couldn't let it show.
No, that's what the no response just killed.
Yeah.
And so both of you, I think using that body language and things is huge. When you start working out jokes and a set, and both of you, obviously you're new, so you're working that initial set still. How long until you start feeling comfortable with something?
So, 5 months in, I'm still super new, rookie. There's a few that I've done that I've repeated a few times that have gotten consistent laughs. So I can't necessarily say a good length of time, because I don't think I'm comfortable with everything. Like, I have a few different 3 to 5 minute sets, but if somebody said, hey, can you come do 12 minutes, I'm not totally sure I could put all 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 of those little sets together. So I guess I have no answer really yet. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, man, because I feel like I use like the open mics back in Louisville. It's like, they at the comedy club in Louisville, it's Caravan Comedy Club. They have open mics on Wednesdays, so sometimes it's a little time out, to get to that point. So I'll try to do open mics, just getting it out, see what kind of works a little bit, and then kind of have that goal in mind of doing the comedy club in front of an audience, just to see how it works out. But, I feel like I just now got to the point where I can do a tight 5 without my notes on stage, because I used to just always bring notes and look over it. So I just got to the point where I'm like, I got a solid 5, I feel like, and no less, no more.
And, I said this with Wriggler, too, and this is what I love about comedy is I don't think there's any other entertainment sector like this to where, actors don't go back. Brad Pitt's not going back and doing community theater to, brush up on what he does. LeBron James doesn't head down to the local community gym and play ball to get better. Comedians have to go back and grind. Like you hear from Chris Rock and these guys that are coming back, Seinfeld, and these major stand-ups that they go do open mics to work their material and get back to being at that level. And I don't know if there's anywhere else that you see that the way you do in comedy.
It is pretty unique. I remember, I think Eddie Murphy, is working on a stand-up, like an hour stand-up, but he has to do some smaller venues. He even said it himself to kind of work it out, to put it together. And before I was doing it, I would hear that kind of thing, be kind of surprised.
I'm interested to see how Eddie Murphy does in the modern climate type thing. You know what I mean? Is he going to be like Disney Eddie Murphy? Like,
yeah, I don't think he'll be Delirious Raw, and I don't think he'll be Shrek either. I think he'll be somewhere in the middle. A little sensitive world we're in right now.
Which I do have to say, I heard this the other day. I was telling my wife, I was listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger on Howard Stern, and he said they're writing a sequel to the movie Twins with Danny DeVito, and they're going to find out they had a third brother, and it's Eddie Murphy. So the triplets are going to be Schwarzenegger, Eddie Murphy, and Danny DeVito.
Are you serious?
Which I don't know how you guys feel about the movie Twins, but to me that sounds like gold right off the top. You put Eddie Murphy in that mix.
If Twins is on, I'm watching it.
Yeah,
I love it, man. For some reason, that's just one of them. That's one of those movies, man.
When he said they're making a sequel, I'm like, gosh, why would you do that? That's not good. And then he said, we're going to find out we had a third brother. It's Eddie Murphy. And I about fell out of my seat right there.
When's it coming?
Yeah, sign me up because that would be awesome.
Turbo Man 2. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Sinbad. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
No, I don't look forward to that anyways. I changed my mind.
I changed my mind. Go back to Roast War Championship, and I want to talk about it a little bit. And Wriggler puts on a heck of a show, and it's a cool thing that he does. How'd you guys feel coming out of Roast War Championship 4?
Man, it was my first roast, and like when you talk about going up, like not really knowing what you're doing, like I guess I'm just gonna roast this guy. That's what it kind of felt like. I just had to browse his Facebook and Instagram, and just see what I could target. And then I feel like I had a lot of Norm Macdonald is he's I look up, I don't know, role model. I don't know what you would call him. Yeah. Inspiration, and I feel like when he did Bob Saget, like kind of just like that, just like goofy, like PG. Like flip cards. I didn't know it was going to switch back and forth or whatever. So like the note cards, I'm like, oh shit, like just holding it back. But no, man, I just had a good time regardless, man. Work's been busy, so it was like kind of hard in a way, like leading up to it, to try to get good jokes or trying to work out, a set in the head, and then like drive out, because it's like 2-hour drive from where I live at, and I had to work the next morning, man. But I still had fun regardless, and it was cool meeting people. I got new friends request, man, from Indianapolis. A lot of people out there. Nice. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I enjoy it. You're right. He does put on a very good show. The cage and the showmanship, all that is really awesome. I enjoy roasting. And you're right. Like when I was in junior high school, the school bus stop and the school bus, if you didn't come back, you're going to get eaten alive. So I literally grew up doing that. So I was super comfortable, and I did write a little bit. I had preparation time, so I was able to, but I just didn't use any notes. And I told myself to make sure you don't just say a roast and let it go. Kind of show it to the crowd. Kind of be a presenter a little bit. That's why I did it that way.
And I do think it's different, because I think it's totally different than stand up. Because obviously it's a back and forth outside of maybe dealing with a heckler at a comedy show, but you are really, you've got to have some things written and obviously prepared, but you also got to be able to respond and kind of go back and forth with that. And that's a whole different skill set.
Oh yeah, I didn't know how, dude. My guy was like 7 years in, like doing comedy, man. Like he had me on the first one. I'm like, oh man, there's no way I'm done right here.
But it is a little different though. I think what would be a crazy challenge. is Brad not announced the matchups until the night of, and then you can see how off the cuff you are. Yeah,
and
That'd be awful.
I said that about Sandra, man, the Queen of Mean, and she wrote the entire show.
Right.
I mean, did not stop writing, and I told him, I said, you could have went overtime and called her against anybody. She had something written about everybody in that room. I said, and it was just amazing watching her. But I agree. Yeah. Just to come up and go off the cuff would be something totally different.
Yeah, it'd be tough. Especially with a clock on you and everything, it'd be tough.
How would you like conjure that up? I'd like look at his socks and be like, oh, funny socks, man. Look at that.
Well, see, I did that. That's what we do.
And I think you almost got to let them go first. I mean, coming out of the gate would be tougher. It's a lot easier. You want to hit me, now I can kind of roll a little bit and come back. Yeah. And I'm, obviously we announced it there with Wriggler on the last show, and more info to come, but
I heard it.
I'm going to get to feel you guys' pain a little bit because Roastamania, January 30th, I am climbing in the cage against Justin Juice Kelly from the Juice in the Morning podcast, and we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, you caught Brad off guard with that one.
I did.
I heard it. Yeah.
I didn't know how he'd respond, and man, he jumped all over it.
So, he loved it. And so did Juice.
Yeah, Juice has been we've been trash talking a little bit, and it's going to get pretty hot and heavy. I love my boy Juice, but this one I'm gonna have to put him down on.
Good.
How you feel, man? You been doing mental push-ups, man?
Oh yeah, man. I've been I've been doing a little bit of that, Facebook stalking, digging through his Facebook, finding all the stuff, and
nice.
And reaching out to some people that maybe know him that maybe don't like him as much anymore, getting some dirt that way. I'm doing my.
He's digging.
Yeah, I'm gonna find everything I can on him.
Yeah.
So
does he have a MySpace still? Did you look that deep, man?
I haven't got that deep yet.
I don't think he's that old.
Yeah, I don't know if he was around for the MySpace era. So when you look ahead and talking about Roasted Alive, Roast War Championship number 5, Roasted Alive, P-Rez, I'm going to you. You are up against Devon Shoemaker, man, and I'm pretty excited about this matchup.
Yeah, I'm good. I met him actually the same night I met Calvin at an open mic at Kettle Top. We talked a little bit, and I saw him at the Rose War. We've gone back and forth on Messenger a few times just to kind of discuss a few things, but I'm good. I'm ready. I got a few things written. I'm going to put it together, and I'm ready for him. I'll be good.
You going to climb the cage and jump off the top, man?
I might. I might.
Sick.
And I'm excited. That is November 22nd, Friday night at Vern's.
Free.
No cover charge, man. I'm telling you. I talked about it with Wriggler. If you're looking for something fun to do in Indianapolis, it's insane. You get in free and see the amount of comedy you can see that night. And food's good, beer's cold. There's not a better place to hang out. And I have the honor of being one of the judges November 22nd.
Wow, okay.
So
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm not just gonna be judging. I'm gonna be trying to learn a thing or two because I believe Juice and I are gonna be sitting next to each other that night. So we may there may be a little pre January 30th going on.
Yeah, the way in.
So I want to throw this out to you guys too because we kind of talked here a little bit about comedy. So who was you talked about some of your inspiration and being Norm Macdonald. Who are some of those comedy heroes that you guys kind of look to?
My all-time top of the list is Eddie Murphy, without question. Raw and Delirious, I could go watch those today and laugh. So he's at the top of my list. Maybe a Mount Rushmore. I would add Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, and then between either Bernie Mac or Sid the Entertainer. I love hearing those guys. But then there's a guy named, you ever heard of Jim Gaffigan?
Oh, yeah.
I love the way he puts his stories together.
Yes.
And he doesn't even curse, and which doesn't bother me. I don't need you to curse, but he's hilarious to me, man. So different types of comedy. So I like them all.
Yeah, man. There's this guy out of Nashville called Dusty Slay. I like his stuff quite a bit, man. And I don't know. I try to just aim towards something that I feel like is, I don't know, not really like kind of PG-ish, you know what I mean? Like not really being political, not really going to, towards things I feel like people hear often anyways, kind of kind of getting the idea of like, you know, going out and not really like kind of, you know, I don't know, man, like trying to touch base on things that people, you know, kind of overlook, like scratch off tickets or something, you know what I mean? Like, and, you know, just have fun with it, man. But I think there's, I mean, obviously, you know, there's Theo Vaughn I like a lot, man. Big inspiration for the mullet, so. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I want to ask this because we talked a little bit about Eddie Murphy coming back and how he would be. Do you hate on those guys that have transformed themselves from, you know, raw and delirious into more of that family-friendly comedy that they've become today?
Oh, no, not at all. No. The opportunity's in front of him. Why would you not take it? And he has children now, so it's a little different. He did Delirious, I think he was 22. So he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And now here he is. I mean, I think he made, I don't know, the most money from the Shrek series. So no way. I totally get the progression.
And I think you just hit something that a lot of comedians talk about is what legacy do you leave for your kids to see? You know, you want them to see Delirious and Raw when they're the age that it's appropriate for them to see it, but it's also nice they can go see you in Shrek and you can
Dr.
share
Dolittle
some of
or
that.
Something. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, this is one of my growing up. Saturday Night Live was like the pinnacle for me. Loved it. You know, I thought that if I ever hit a home run and was able to become famous, being on Saturday Night Live was it. What's your guys' thoughts on kind of Saturday Night Live in the past and then Saturday Night Live today?
Man, I feel like today, man, it's like it's hard to watch it because I feel like it's so politically biased that it's just like, I don't know, it's like things that are actually happening, but they're putting like a laugh track in the background of it. You know what I mean? That's what kind of, I don't know, and to a point, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? And like, it doesn't bother me if other people are into that, but it just doesn't seem like as entertaining anymore. It's just like, oh shit, man, I already hear this on NPR, man. Like, I don't know, something like that.
I'm similar. I don't watch it consistently anymore, like the old days. Or every now and then I'll catch like a YouTube of one of the skits they did, or if somebody I love is hosting, you know, I may go check it. But consistently, no, it's not part of my.
Yeah, I don't even watch it live.
Yeah, I don't
Saturday
either.
night rerun.
Yeah,
and it is.
YouTube.
I mean, it is for me too. And that, but I kind of agree with what you said. That, you know, the thing for me that I loved before was the creativity and the unique characters that they wrote, and some of the things. I mean, when I look at it today and think about all the famous Saturday Night Live movies that spawned out, you know, you talk about Wayne's World and
Night at the Roxbury.
Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah, Ladies Man.
Ladies Man. That's the one I was trying to think. I was getting ready to say Tim Meadows, but I couldn't get it. I don't see one right now that they would do. I mean, they might be able to shoot like a political, like, you know, parody movie, but there isn't those consistent creative characters that just drive a show. And so for me, I struggle with it as well. But if I can go back and watch when, you know, Farley was on there, or Tim Meadows or Chris Rock, or, you know, even back to Belushi and those guys way before.
Yeah, more cocaine.
Yeah. I think that may be the answer to what it is. But, you know, it's not the creative show that I think it once was, and it's too bad. And I think they actually have more freedom to say and do things today and get away with things, but I think that's hurt some of the creativity of finding a way to say it without just saying it.
Oh yeah, well, you see that in like a lot of things in media, man. Like movies are kind of have like that somewhat hidden agenda, it feels like, behind of it, you know. And I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, it's whatever people want to watch or whatever. But it's just like, you know, Luke Skywalker had flaws, you know what I mean? And like now it's like the new hero, you know, she's a woman, but she doesn't have any flaws at all. You know what I mean? Like it's like I want a strong, independent woman like from Sigourney Weaver from Aliens. You know what I mean? It just like fit in the story. There was no like push or no like, I guess, agenda behind the movie. It felt like. Am I wrong? Am I going the wrong direction? Am I going a weird route?
It's your thoughts, bro.
No, bro. But I will agree with this. The movie industry, to me, has taken a severe hit across the board. I mean, we're just not. We're doing a lot of sequels, and I know I'll have some people hate on me for saying this. I'm not a huge superheroes guy. The comic book stuff. There's some I like, but that's kind of been played out for me, and it just seems like to me we're either remaking movies or
Yeah.
it's the same storyline we've seen.
Yeah, there's a lot of remakes. I'm not sure if it's creativity or they see the previous remake made a lot of money, so why not do it again? And I can't fault them for that either, man.
No, I do too.
I also see, like, to me, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger from, like, Commando was corny. You know what I mean? Like, you look back at it, and it's like, dude didn't get shot, and he's, like, killing, like, 80 people and just shooting around. And to me, that's the same difference between if there's a woman lead that was, like, kicking dudes through walls and stuff. It's the same type of corniness in action movies, I feel like.
Well, that was
It's around
was,
the board.
was Commando 86 or something like that. It was maybe,
Commando.
somewhere. So you gotta remember when it was made and
Oh, yeah.
run with it.
And that's what I love going back and watching, in the Halloween theme right now and time, but I love going back and watching some of those horror movies that just killed me as a kid, and I go back and watch them now, and I'm like,
What?
this is ridiculous.
It's kind of funny, actually,
Like-
kind of silly.
Like Children of the Corn used to just wig me out as a
Yeah.
kid. Now I go back, I'm like, this is dumb. But I mean, I'm laughing,
No,
but
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm not catching this anymore.
No, you're right. I'm a big 80s movies guy, period. So that's actually part of one of my sets. Is I love the 80s movies, man. And no matter how corny, there's some of them that I won't turn my back on, like Goonies or
Oh, yeah.
Weird Science or Karate Kid. Yeah, those are classics, man.
Man, I watched the first Men in Black last night. Me and the wife did. And I came to a realization, dude, Tommy Lee Jones, is a shitty dude, man. Like, he got Will Smith on as, like, his partner, made him give up his whole life. You know, I mean, they deleted everything. You know, it's like, you are them, you are they, you're the Men in Black, right? And then he's 2 days on the job during the movie. And then Kay's like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. He's like, you're my replacement. He's like, man, I just started. Like, you're just going to, now I'm ready for the job. Like, you're just going to make me, like, make you forget everything. And that's what he did.
You can form that into a comedy set,
I
man.
just love that you just went deep thinking on Men in Black, man. That
Now, if my boss did that to me, man, I'd be like, what, man? Like, you're not going to, I still don't know how to clock in. Like, I don't know that system yet, man.
Well, I will say this. When I was a student teacher and was supposed to be learning, my first day of student teaching, 7th grade social studies, the teacher taught first period. He said he was going down to the office during the passing period, and he didn't come back, and I didn't see him for 6 weeks.
Wow.
It was on me. I had a group of 30 kids. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to do something
Guess
here.
I'm teaching.
So,
Got to figure it out.
yeah. So, I mean, he was kind of like, that Tommy Lee Jones character. He just kind of disappeared on me. So, but, what else, when you guys are trying to come together with a set or work something, where do you get your inspiration from? What do you really try to pull from?
It might sound corny and lame. I'm just general life. Like, so I might be at work. I have a small little green notebook, and I'll see something or think of something, write it down, try to elaborate later. So literally just, and again, being 40, I talk a lot about my history, my upbringing, my parents, and so I use that and make jokes out of it. But currently, it's just what I might just see something and write it down. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what's up, man. I think the second go around with comedy, I had a career change. Kind of did more blue collar work. Got my like CDL license and whatnot. And I mean, it's just like kind of in this weird embracing of this kind of line of work that I never had before prior. And looking back at family history and noticing things that were more I was telling you earlier, like more ashamed of kind of history. And then now I'm like, man, that's just goofy. It's just funny now.
Or you realize everybody has some experiences
it's
like
so
that.
relatable,
So,
yeah.
Like humans are humans, man. So a lot of the stuff you might joke about your past, someone's gonna relate to it. Yeah.
And it's funny to me even, in comedy, even people that you think would never relate to what you're talking about, they can get it together, because you're exactly right. And families are family, and everybody's got, the uncle that drinks too much and passes out at Thanksgiving. Everybody's got the aunt that's on her 9th or 10th husband. I mean, every family has that, kind of playing out.
Yep.
They may not want to say it. They may not want to get on stage and talk about that's what's going on in their family, but everybody's got that, whether they admit it or not.
Yeah, you're right. Or even if you may say something I may not directly relate, but I understand life is crazy and just go with it. Yeah.
So, do you ever have those situations where you've written a bit, whether it comes from your life, family, friends, whatever, and you've got somebody that's not real happy that you're sharing that bit, do you try and change it enough that somebody can't pick up where it came from?
Again, just being 5 months in, I haven't gotten there yet. But I remember first starting out, my wife was like, please don't talk about me. I was like, I won't yet, but I got to get to you. I mean, it's almost like a requirement now.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but I won't embarrass her. I'll do my best not to do that.
Dude, my favorite is my in-laws love to be like, oh, you can use that. Like, you can use that. You can, write this. You should be writing this down right now. And I'm like,
leave me alone. Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to eat.
Is this real or is this going to come back to bite me?
Well, to me, man, it's like a lot of them they got into, it's interesting now because like people who show up to my shows as far as family and friends, they've seen my set. So I'm like, hey, I'm doing another show at, this location. Come check it out. And they're like, man, we've seen your 5-minute set 8 times already. Like, and so it's interesting to see, that change or, coming up with a new 5 and trying, new stuff out. But, no, I don't care if, my family's no holds bars, man. Mm-hmm. I'm just giving them attention, if I call them out, post it on Facebook or something.
Have either of you had to deal with hecklers of any kind?
Not yet. I did an open mic once. Actually, the one that Brad was talking about in your last one. People were up front, like, kind of talking. So I kind of jumped on them a little bit. And Brad didn't say it, but I jumped on him himself because he dropped his phone and it was loud. So I picked on him a little bit, and the crowd loved it. So heckling, not necessarily, but people talking in the front row, I've kind of messed with them a little bit, but not direct.
Yeah, man. I only had one, moment like that, but the guy kind of saved my bit because I said something about going Goodwill, and I was like, yeah, you ever wait in line, your clothes draped over your forearm, and your forearm gets itchy, and it was like dead silent in the room, and some guy was like, bed bugs. And I was like, hey, you only get bed bugs at Peddler's Mall. So I was able to come out of just this awkwardness, man.
Use it, yeah.
Oh, no, Goodwill shoppers, man.
Heck yeah.
But and what you just said, that always amazes me sometimes. And even in paid, shows, my wife and I've been to comedy shows, and people sit right up front and spend the whole night talking to each other or on their phone. And I'm like, man, why did you even pay to come?
Dude, the same people that probably talk at movie theaters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I can't. I went to a show in Lafayette, was it last week, maybe week before, just to kind of support some comics. And I actually got in, and the guy asked me if I wanted to do a guest set. So I said, heck yeah. I was half prepared. It could have been better. But even when the headliner was on, they were literally at the front, right by the stage. And he picked on him because he's been doing it for 14 years. So he did it the right way. But what are you doing?
Yeah,
that's a courtesy.
That's the same to me. I mean, I'm tight enough with my money. If I'm going to pay to come see you, I'm that guy. Which I mean, not in the negative way, but I'm like, make me laugh. I'm here for you.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
I can sit and talk to my wife at home all night long.
Yeah.
I came because I wanted to laugh. I wanted to be entertained. So I've never understood that about people.
Yeah, and I have I'm very big on just respecting other people and courtesy. So even if they're not doing a good job, I'll still pay attention because now I know being on that stage and seeing folks not pay attention, part of it's like, is it because of me? I'm not that funny. So I just respect the people on stage, man.
Man, I felt awkward one time, man. I invited this guy. I've invited a bunch of people to a show one time, and a friend of mine, this guy I haven't seen since high school, showed up. And he really enjoyed it, but he was a heckler. And I would, the next couple of weeks, he, showed up and was bringing friends and stuff because they enjoyed the heckling part of it. And I was like, damn, man, I hope no one finds out that guy.
That I brought him.
I've thought about reaching out to him and telling him, man, being like, dude, you can't do that, man.
Well, that's
giving
how
everybody a hard time.
I think his name was Anthony Johnson. He played Ezel on Friday, the crackhead. He literally got his start from heckling. All he did was go to this comedy stage or club in L.A. All he would do was heckle. That was his thing. So the comedy manager, whatever it was, asked him to go on stage, and there he is.
And that's the thing I always think, and there are some that think they're really funny, hecklers that aren't, but there are some, like what you just said, that put together a set and get on stage, man, because you may be better than the guy that's up there.
You could be. Or get up there and freeze.
Yeah, but you got to go do the work and do it. So, And that's what I've always thought was funny was that, some guys, they're really good with the spotlight on somebody else sitting in the back, but once you get up there, it's a whole different feeling.
Different world, man.
So as you, when you're preparing for a set, how often, like you talk about a tight five and, you getting together that tight five, how often do you vary off of that tight five, whether it's the order of the jokes or kind of how you roll it? Are you pretty consistent every time, or what do you kind of go with?
Man, I felt like for a good while there, for a good moment, it was just trying out jokes, like just random, no real structure to it, just shooting them out. Because mine are more I guess more like one-liners. It's kind of like a boom, 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 and then I'd move on to something else. And there's some common theme, but it was just for a good while, just randomness, and then going over with friends, meeting up with people, and just being like, hey, some people are like, man, that joke should be your first joke because it introduces the character. This joke's your funniest, so it should be at the end, and just like trying it out over and over. And you get to a point where you have like, I guess, your group of jokes. And then for me, it's just like figuring out, all right, this would be good here because it transition. I got a hair joke, flea market, and then transitions down that way, I guess.
Kind of similar to yours. You got a hair joke,
yep.
flea market, Goodwill shopping.
Exactly. Boom, out of here. But I try to connect all of my jokes to where I try to tell a story, and I try to, near the end of the beginning, find some way to relate it to help me discuss the next topic. I try to make it flow a little bit. And a lot of times, I've done a few times when I've had an actual show, is come in with music and have the song be a part of my opening joke. So when I'm walking on stage, they hear it, and then I go from that. So that's my kind of introduction.
I love that.
Man, I've been belching over here, so if I like lean out, I'm trying to just blow out the funk. Not around here. My stomach, man, Subway's tearing my stomach up, man.
Yeah, Subway, if you're looking for a sponsor, here.
Boom.
Tear your stomach up, Subway.
All right, so I did want to throw this out to you guys here before we take off, because I looked up, and this is, you can tell it's extremely well thought out because it's from wealthygorilla.com. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds really impressive. This is the top 25 funniest stand-up comedians of all time. So I want to go down the list and just see kind of where you guys are at, because I scrolled a little bit but didn't look at all of them. But I think I've got some disagreements with some of them. So number 25 was Bob Newhart, which I think for me that is probably just a kind of throwing it out to his longevity of doing things. 24, Bernie Mac. And I know you brought up Bernie Mac, but to me that's way high. I mean, he should be a lot lower in this list than 24 for me.
I agree with that.
Oh my God. Cancel the website.
Yeah, I don't even know who's more up there.
23, Red Fox from Sanford and Son.
Not mad at that.
22, Norm Macdonald. This was another one that I thought could have been a lot lower on this one. 21, Jim Carrey. And I got to be honest about that one. I've always thought Jim Carrey was a very funny actor, a very funny sketch player, obviously, from his days on In Living Color.
In Living Color, heck yeah.
But not a stand-up that jumps out at me.
I probably, honestly, have never seen his stand-up.
Yeah.
So I can't say yay or nay.
I feel the same way about Robin Williams as Jim Carrey. Like, I liked his movies, but I didn't get his stand-up too much.
See, I still there's some of his stuff in stand-up that I love just because, but I don't know that, I'll be honest, I don't know that I've sat down and watched an entire Robin Williams special.
I don't think I have either. Yeah.
I've watched some of his
Comic
YouTube clips and things like that.
Yeah.
Number 20, and this, I don't know when this list was put together. This may change. Bill Cosby, which he's given a lot of material to stand-up comedians
Absolutely.
now. So I don't know if you look at that as giving back to it or what. But number 19, Bill Hicks. Number 18, Stephen Wright. Number 17, Ricky Gervais. Number 16, Lewis Black. Number 15, Don Rickles. Number 14, Jim Gaffigan.
I like Jim Gaffigan.
Which that is a
like Jim.
good one. 13, Kevin Hart.
13, huh?
I think he's high.
You mean he should be better?
No, I think he should be. I think he should be farther back on the list. I would put Bernie Mac ahead of Kevin Hart.
Oh, absolutely.
I would put Bill Hicks back. I think he's a little high, man. He was more just like statements. But
I would agree with that as well.
I could be wrong.
But I got to hear who's ahead of, because Kevin Hart was good.
Kevin Hart to me is more of just shtick, I guess.
No, he is.
And
But I think he presents well though. When he does his stand up, he showmanship. I think he does that well to my.
I would agree with that. Number 12, Mitch Hedberg, which
He's
awesome.
very one-liner.
Number 11, Rodney Dangerfield, and I don't know that I've seen a ton of Rodney stuff, but so I don't know where I would fall him. I know he's to some people legendary, but number 10, Bill Burr, and I love Bill Burr.
I love Bill Burr also. He might need to be a little higher for me. I don't know. I love hearing him.
Number 9, Steve Martin. He's another one that I've seen some of his stuff, but I don't know that I'd have him in the top 10.
Yeah.
This is one that I struggle with, and I'll be interested to hear you guys. Number 8 is Jerry Seinfeld. He's another one to me that love the series Seinfeld, one of my favorites of all time. Love it. His stand-up doesn't hit for me. And it's just to me, it sounds like the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. Whoever likes him, that's fine. I'm not knocking him, but I wouldn't rank him at all for me.
Yeah, I think he has an album. I'm telling you for the last time. It's like the only one that I really listened through all the way, but it was more like it's nostalgia. I feel like I listened to that when my mom showed me that CD when I was younger. But anything else, like you said, it's kind of all very similar. You know what I mean? Like
it's the
observation.
Same. Yeah, observational comedy. And now I love his show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Love it.
Because I love seeing the interviews with him.
Yep.
Number 7, Louis C.K., and I'm a big Louis C.K. guy too.
Okay.
I like him. 6 is Chris Rock.
Yeah.
And I think he's a top 5 guy for me.
Yeah.
But 5, Eddie Murphy. I thought he should have been in the top 3 for me.
Open the website and shut it down again.
Number 4, Dave Chappelle. And I'll ask this, talking about modern stand-ups, and I'm not even, Chris Rock would be out for me on that, Eddie Murphy, more 2000 plus.
Gotcha.
Dave Chappelle's got to be the number 1 guy from this kind of era. Do we not?
I would agree. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I would say so, but it's interesting now because it's more of like, his stuff has always been, his material's always been kind of, I guess, edgy, but it's interesting to see, like, I don't know, his stuff seems more thought-provoking these days. It's funny, and it's a good perspective. It's an interesting perspective. But to me, it's more of like, man, that's interesting that you think,
No, I agree. So as he's progressed, so did you see Sticks and Stones?
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen funnier from him, but like you said, his delivery and his perception or his view on today was awesome. But I've seen funnier.
I agree, and I think that's what's so tough for him coming back from his time off. Mm-hmm. He was so funny from the Dave Chappelle show to his stand-up specials then, and I think he grew as a person. Mm-hmm. And I think we didn't grow we didn't grow with him like some other comedians. And then he came back, and I think it's tough sometimes to compare, his early stuff to his later stuff.
Yeah, you're right. But I love Sticks and Stones. I loved it.
Number 3, Robin Williams. And I know you just talked about Robin Williams, but he is number 3 here on the list. 2, Richard Pryor. And I struggle with this one. I love Richard Pryor, but he's another one. And actually, number 2 and number 1, I think they get way more credit because number 1 is George Carlin. And I think George Carlin was funny, but I think Richard Pryor and George Carlin, I think, are the 2. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's just going to murder me for saying this, but I think that they were doing it at a time when there wasn't competition like what Eddie Murphy saw and Chappelle and all that. And I think they get more credit than what they deserve.
I have to vastly disagree.
Really?
Yeah, Richard Pryor. Like, I seriously, on my phone, I have a bunch of comedy albums, and I'll just put it on shuffle. I've literally had wiping my eyes with laughing, headed to work off some of his old stuff. Richard Pryor's my number 2, man. It's just me, but I agree with George Carlin. He never grabbed me, but Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor are just personal favorites.
And I love the disagreement, man. That's why it just, and for me, I don't know. And those two, and don't get me wrong, there are things that I think they're hilarious, and I would probably have them in my top 10. I just don't know that they would always be my interchangeable 1 and 2. And almost every list I look at, it's Carlin and Pryor, the 1 and the 2.
Yeah, but I feel like I personally haven't really gave either one of them a shot, like, really looking up their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like George Carlin's more like memes about being like against the government, like what I see now. You know what I mean? Like his stuff. I mean, that's another one. I feel like it was just like, oh man, the government sucks. Like he's reminding me all this political. I don't know.
What's that website called?
WealthyGorilla.com. I don't know how they got wealthy, but it is WealthyGorilla.com.
Maybe from mentions from silly lists.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac at 25. Oh, my God.
I wonder what they based that off of, like ticket sales or something?
Actually, personal opinion, man.
Yeah, I think it's personal opinion. How many of these? I got to just show this because as I scrolled on, related topics. The 25 greatest white rappers in the world. I didn't know there was 25 that made
rappers.
great.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of white people out there, I suppose.
It's their website. They can do what they want.
I can already tell you through most of as I clicked on the 25 greatest, oh my God, white rappers, I don't know many of them, but 22 is Weird Al Yankovic. I didn't realize that you would put him in the white rapper category.
He's more of a comedian with music.
Yeah, he rhymes. He got some rhymes.
I mean, Post Malone should feel bad. He's only one spot ahead of Weird Al. So,
dude, I went to there's this guy I went to high school with, man. He looks like Post Malone, and he's not, like, attractive, I feel like. I mean, he looks just like him without all the tattoos, like that gross mustache and stuff, and he doesn't seem, not quite the opposite.
Eminem's number 1, right?
Yeah, Eminem is number 1. Beastie Boys 2. I'll go with the first 2 there. Yellow Wolf was 3.
Little Dicky on there?
That would be a good one. Mac Miller was 4. I'd have him up there. Macklemore was 6.
Beastie Boys were like a punk band before they went more hip hop.
Yeah. I can see that.
They're pretty good too, man.
No Little Dicky.
I'm not seeing that.
That's crazy.
What?
Oh, 8.
Okay.
And I am
You a rapper?
No. No.
That was next. I am a rapper.
Machine Gun Kelly, number 7. That is...
His best work was just being in Bird Box.
Oh, yeah, he was in the...
Yep. But Little Dicky's freestyle, man, on Sway in the Morning... I know a lot of people killed him on it, but that was, like, ridiculous to me.
Man. I have one of his albums. He's actually pretty impressive to me.
Because he can really rhyme. Yes, he's making jokes of things and it's funny, but he can really rhyme.
Yeah, no, he's actually he's pretty good.
And I said that from the first thing with Snoop Dogg wouldn't work with you if you couldn't actually.
You heard that song before, where they're going back and forth in an interview.
Yeah.
It's pretty creative, man.
And that's what when he first came out with that, and people are like, "Oh my gosh!" And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, he may be a white guy that's kind of joking, but if he couldn't actually perform, Snoop Dogg would never agree with that. And then the Chris Brown Freaky Friday one's one of the funniest things I've ever heard, where they've switched bodies. I mean, that one kills me.
I wonder what his concerts are like. You think they're any good, or is it just like watching them walk around on stage rapping?
Yeah, just because you're a good rapper doesn't mean you'll have a good show.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. He wouldn't be a ticket I'd ever buy.
I'd go if somebody else was like Snoop or Outkast and he was there. It'd be awesome. But him headlining, doesn't disrespect him. I don't think he has the showmanship. Showmanship matters, man.
Yeah, you have to have someone else with Lil Dicky to go see him.
Now, see, I would love to see him in like a rap battle. I would love, because he is so quick and off the dome, and I would love to see him kind of go back and forth with some guys. Yep. So I want to give you guys a chance here. We're 50 minutes in already. Wow. Had no idea we were going to talk about the 25 greatest white rappers, which I still think that list could have been the 5 greatest white rappers. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of talk about some of the stuff you got coming up. How people can find your stuff, how they can see you. So give you guys a chance to kind of shout out your stuff here.
So I'm actually hosting 1949 Taverns open mic next Wednesday in Beach Grove. And then my next actual scheduled is the roast war. So not a lot on my docket, but again, 5 months in, full-time job, married with 2 kids. I gotta find that balance, man.
Yeah, man, I haven't. There isn't much going on right now, but work's been busy, work's been crazy. But you can follow me on JToy1313. Wait, you can follow us on Instagram, JToy1313. I'm pretty much going to be doing here lately, man, is be hitting open mics, maybe coming out to Indianapolis a couple times, trying some mics here. Whenever work starts slowing down a little bit,
you live
man.
in Louisville?
Yeah, I live
okay.
in Louisville.
Okay.
It was only an hour drive here, man. It's kind of nice.
Mine was longer.
Yeah, we're kind of like right in the middle. That's the only thing that helps us a little bit.
But no, man, when I got to go, there's a pretty cool show coming up in December. To me, I feel like there's some pretty big names, in my opinion, some Louisville locals there that are on this show. And this, I'm doing a Friday 7:30 and the 9:30 show. And so it's just cool to just see that, like, it's like, damn, man, that's cool to see my name up there with that crew.
It is.
And
cool.
but yeah, that's the only thing. So that I got that in mind. So I'm going to pretty much leading up to it, just really, crafting the 5 or 8 minute set. Maybe I can get, maybe when December comes around, I have 8 minutes or just have fun with it, man.
That's right.
And it's amazing to me, and for those that don't know what goes into the work you guys do, how much time it takes to get that 5 and 8 minutes. Because people probably, and I know sitting at home, they're like, 8 minutes? I could go up and kill for 8 minutes. Like, I'm funny. I talk to people at work all the time. They laugh. Like, the amount of work, man, you guys do to get that thing ready is unreal.
Oh, man.
I was super nervous when Helium told me 3 minutes. I was like, 3 minutes? Oh, my God. And then I think I finished early. Like, it's not the same as just being around your buddies, man. It's not.
And it's interesting, too, because a lot of times, man, my joke writing is, like, during lunch at work. And, I can be driving or on a forklift or something and, like, repeating the joke in my head over and over. So it's, like, a very repetitive ordeal just to for me, just to memorize the layout of the joke without, taking a glance at a piece of paper.
So the last thing I want to leave you guys with, and I'm going to lead into this with November 22nd at Vern's, Roast War Championship 5, Roasted Alive. Come out, see us. I will be there. Juice will be there. Guest judging. I'm very, very excited. You'll get the chance to see P-Rez versus Devon Shoemaker. Going to be a heck of a battle. I know that I looked at the list the other day. There's some exciting sponsors and prizes and losers. Some awful things.
I like sponsors. This is pretty cool.
So, but no, man, if you can get out. It's a great time. But this is the question I'm going to leave you guys with before we jump off here. Mr. Brad Rigler, obviously comedian, great showman. How do you think he'd fare climbing in the cage as a opponent?
Oh, I think he'd do just fine. Yeah. Again, his showmanship alone will be big enough, and he's doing stand up enough to be able to do it. I think he'd be all right.
Yeah, man, he seems to have like very good vocabulary and demeanor of his speech. You know what I mean? Even like, I feel like if even if his roast isn't like the best roast, you're still gonna like feel it like, oh man, he meant that to that other person.
And he's another one that to me is kind of sneaky like that. But I think, man, if you put him in there, he'd shred some people.
No,
and that's why I wanted to see if you agreed, because he's just got that kind of, I'm really nice, but
what if he starts crying? Like, what if he can't handle it at all?
Wouldn't that be awesome? If he just ends up in the corner of the cage crying and total breakdown after hosting.
That's why I'm just going to host these. I'm not going to.
And so guys, if you obviously on the video here, you can see their Instagram and Twitter profiles. Go out, give these guys a like, a follow, and check out what they're doing, man. This is a great thing, and we're going to get off here. We're going to do a quick after the mics. We have 7 debate topics that I'm going to throw out to these guys and let them go back and forth. That's uncut, that's raw, unedited. Going straight to our Patreon site. If you join the fan club, you can get all that exclusive content right there. So before we take off, P-Rez, Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being on.
Man, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Awesome.